Hi, I'm Elise Price-Tobler and I'm the writer of the SEMPI Social Communication Model, and today I'm going to be running through tutorial number 4 and we're looking at the letter M in the middle of the word SEMPI for the acronym, and where M stands for Meet Your Needs. So we're going to be running through that a little bit, and if this is the first time that you've actually watched me in a tutorial, then I suggest perhaps jumping back and having a little look at number 1, 2 and 3 so that you get familiar with what I'm talking about, and then come into number 4, which will be applicable for the letter M, which is also the colour yellow. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to drop the screen down and welcome everybody, and let's get started. So basically I'll just run over quickly a few of the things about SEMPI, the SEMPI Social Communication Model, and the basics behind it. So it's born from the premise of what happens if you ask someone if they're alright or okay and they say no. So if you say to someone, are you okay, and they say no, do you know what steps to take with them to actually sit with that person and have a deeper level, more empathic conversation? If you don't, and if you're not sure, and if this makes you a little bit just unsettled, then this model actually teaches you how to have a deeper heart-to-heart conversation with that person, allowing them to feel heard, validated and understood, and then so that it's not one way all the time, they can then do that with you, because every single day we have different things going on in our lives and everything changes all the time. So what I'm suggesting is, instead of asking the question, are you okay, or are you alright, that we actually ask the question, how's your SEMPI? So when we say that, SEMPI basically stands for sleep, emotions, meet your needs, physical body and inclusion. So today we're going to be talking about M, as I've already stated, and I'm just going to go quickly through everything. So this is a free community model, so you can share this model in a room with up to 10 people at a time without having to gain permission. It's a pay it forward altruistic model, so, and it can also be used for teaching in schools. It can be used for first responders who are having a little bit of trouble talking about what's happening for them. So you can sit with a first responder, of which I was one with the State Emergency Service of New South Wales. I was a primary road rescue officer for quite a long time, so I've written it from that point of view as well. Also a fully qualified psychotherapist with a master's degree, so I've written it for the general public to be using with each other. So we can use it with children, age 3 all the way through to adult. So let's move through. So basically it's been written for all community members from all walks of life, and it teaches everyone the art of having a heart-to-heart conversation so that competing with each other stops and real listening can take place. This model is designed as a community aid to reduce loneliness, stigma and bullying between community members, while increasing empathy and altruism through a pay-it-forward philosophy. So what I'm hoping is that you'll learn the model and then teach it to the next person. And it's been my experience through my SEMPI Conversations segments, which are also on YouTube, Facebook, snippet 1-minute versions on my Instagram account. You can actually go and see live people using the model, and it generally takes about half an hour to teach. So, and then you can see the people that I bring in for SEMPI Conversations are actually people off the street from all walks of life, and I teach them the model at the same time as they speak the model and what's happening for themselves on the day. So that's a pretty interesting thing to watch, and let's just move on to the next slide. So do you know how to stop what you're doing and have a deeper, more real, empathic conversation with another person, allowing them to feel heard, validated and understood? And if you say no, then this is the model for you. So what about a different solution with an alternative question rather than are you alright or are you okay? So introducing a whole new angle and a brand new replacement question, which is, how is your senpai? So it's a deeper, more real invitation asked by one person to another. This question's asked from a genuine place of interest for another person. So if you are lacking time, you're not that interested and you're not willing to actually sit down with another person, then don't ask how's your senpai. If you are willing to dedicate your time and care for another person, ask them, how's your senpai? And maybe teach them the model. So as I said, it stands for sleep and safety, E for emotions, M for meet your needs, P for physical body, and I for inclusion. So we have a sharer and a listener, and basically when we go through, the sharer speaks and the listener listens. This is not a counselling model. The listener listens, okay? So sleep and safety entry words we've already covered, so you can go back and have a little look at that tutorial because these are all the questions that we go through. And then keep in mind, once you know the senpai model, you don't necessarily have to go through all these questions. This is just the teaching part. Once you know it, you can instantly go in and say, oh, actually my sleep was really bad last night and this is what I was thinking about. So you can tap in to yourself really quickly once you've learnt the model. Emotions, here are all the use the entry word emotion. Here are all the questions that go within that teaching slide. And then today we're looking at meet your needs. So meet your needs basically covers the questions, have you had enough to drink and eat today? So if you're sitting with somebody, often we won't really have time to have thought about this if we're really busy people and we're very distracted. So this is a primary need. So have you had enough to eat or drink today? So an example of this question might be to ask somebody who's maybe sitting in hospital and recovering from an operation and they're in a lot of pain. So they may not have had a lot to eat or drink today, which can go against them in recovery because we know the body needs fuel, the mind needs fuel, we need water. It's very important component. So if somebody's not meeting this particular need, then maybe it's time to let them talk about that. Now next question, do you have a stable home life? So meet your needs also covers the basic need to have somewhere safe to live. Okay, so people who are living in their car, or do you have a stable home life, could be, well, actually I rent and I've just received a letter saying I'm about to be evicted. So now I've got to find somewhere for a new place to live within the next X amount of time, and I have to do this because I'm on a really tight time schedule, but I've got to juggle everything to do with work and family, and now I have to be responsible for finding a new home for everybody or just myself depending on the situation. So do you have a stable home life basically means that, and it's an invitation to speak about potentially what could be going on there. And it also could mean have a stable home life as in you could be in a domestic violence relationship and it's not that stable, and maybe the one person's threatening you to leave, or you can leave. You can sort of read into this as you like, so you can use it to apply to you, and there's 1,000 different scenarios that can come in at this point. So the next question is, do you have supportive friends and family members? So because often if we find that some of these things are going wrong for us, family members and supportive friends may come in and help, but then sometimes they don't. So this is a point where sometimes asking this question is really important, so the person feels as though they're being supported and heard and validated and listened to, and you can do a little bit of referring or extra long conversations around this. So the next one is, do you feel safe and free to express your needs? So this is sometimes applicable with children that we work with or we're talking to. So sometimes children aren't taught to have a voice around different things that could be going on. So this can also mean Perhaps they're not feeling safe enough to talk about the person who's bullying them in the playground, or perhaps they've got Uncle such and such coming in at night. You can read between the lines there. So this is about feeling safe to express your needs. And again, in domestic violence, a lot of women, or men even, I talk to men who are in domestic violence relationships, and the woman is the perpetrator. So even then, they're often not feeling safe and free to express their needs that aren't being met. So this is a question that's very, very broad. And if we apply this to, say, police officers, if we ask them, do you feel safe and free to express your needs? Some of them, especially the ones I'm working with who are under a lot of strain and showing signs of PTSD, may not be able to freely express their need to pull back on work and maybe get a lot more supervision and debriefing and get some counselling. They may not be able to express that need. So as you can see, meet your needs is this little tiny letter opens up a huge area for everybody within community to actually speak about what it is that they're needing and not getting. It's also an opportunity to explore that. So the next question is, do you have any other needs that need meeting? So, okay, so you may have just talked about your primary one that's really bubbling up and affecting a lot of your life. So you may have another need that's sort of secondary down here that you hadn't really thought about. So that could be, say, with the police, for instance, again, the need to have their family members at home understand what it's like for them out there as a frontline responder. So that could be another need that may want to be looked at. So, and the next one, are you feeling calm or do you need some extra support? So this is really important, because if someone is not calm and they're just sitting in a state of anxiety and they've got all these things coming up now because they're speaking about them, this is an important question. So offering to find some extra support with the resource booklets. So on the back here, I've written all of the different names and numbers up here for all of the different crisis resources in New South Wales, Australia. So this can be changed to suit your area, and then once you've ordered the resource booklet off me for teaching, you can just add in your own and pop them on the back of the booklet and distribute them in your area if you choose. So then the next thing we ask is, do you need extra talking time or a referral service? So that's where this comes into. So you can actually offer to sit with the person for another SEMPI conversation and just go through a few other things with each other, and maybe then the sharer can listen to you and you can become the sharer. So we just switch it around, and then once we've learnt it, we just pay it forward to the next person so that nobody's sitting alone and has nobody to speak to. So this goes a long way to combating loneliness and reducing stigma, because then if we understand the other person's perspective a lot more, we can have a deeper level of conversation, stop competing with each other. So that's what basically the SEMPI social community model, communication model, is actually about. That's the philosophy: sharing, learning, paying it forward, caring. Okay, so now I just want to go back, look at a couple of my notes. So I just wanted to talk about the SEMPI communications. So SEMPI communications is performed through SEMPI conversations. So on this particular YouTube channel, I've got people that I bring in from the general public whose stories are completely real. Most of them don't know the model because it's brand new, it's very unfamiliar. So I bring people in, I teach them the model, and then we go through it and I film it. So what it's like for them to be heard for the first time, and they tell their real stories on here. So one of the women that I've got on here is Jen. So she's a she's transitioning between careers at the moment. She's also a carer for her elderly mother who's disabled. So and she is a former business owner. So she's got a few things going on. So when I run through in Senpai conversations with her, she speaks about what's that like. Now she's on camera, she's very nervous, so they're not professional actors. So yeah, it's pretty genuine. And I've also got Shane, who's on here too, who's a corporate IT professional. So he's speaking as well. And over the course of time, I'm interviewing a lot more people who are coming in, and I'm teaching them the Senpai language. And we're going to be having Senpai conversations and filming them and uploading them, so you can get to learn how to do this and pass it on to the next person. And you can also have what we are about to start doing, which is Senpai brunches, where I invite 6 people in and we ask each other, how's your Senpai, instead of gossiping. So this is very interesting to watch, and I can't wait to film some and upload them for you. So basically we get about half a dozen people and we take it in turns, or we can break off, like we can do it each person can ask, how's your Senpai, and the person has an opportunity to speak about that, or we can break off in twos. So, and then we can all get to know each other on a much deeper level. We're not just then focusing on gossiping about other people out there in the world. We're actually getting a true perspective from the other person that we're sitting with. So this is really a different way to think about things, because we're so programmed to just talk about everybody else's lives, but we often get the perspectives wrong, we mix the stories up. There's a lot of trouble can be caused from doing this as well. It's not practicing empathy, whereas this is practicing empathy. So the art of listening to another person so that they feel heard and validated and understood is what I'm trying to get across here. So basically I can teach this model to people within half an hour, so it's very quick as well. And can you imagine if this seeps out into the whole world and we ask each other, how's your Senpai, instead of, are you okay, or are you alright? Okay, you're not, I'm out. So yeah, so this is probably an alternative also if somebody's in terrible grief. Instead of just sending them flowers and not going near somebody who's in a lot of grief, to actually go over to them and ask them, how is your Senpai? So then potentially they can say, and I've heard this before, well, I'm not sleeping, my emotions are all over the place, meet my needs, I haven't been eating. Physically, I'm exhausted and my body's really playing up from all of the pain. And inclusion, I'm not really, well, it was great to start with. I felt really included. Everybody was around me and talking to me and offering to help me. But now there's been a couple of weeks since the funeral and nobody's around. So this is really important. So at this point you can start asking, what are the needs that aren't being met for you? Do you need to go to a referral service? Do you need extra talking time? Is there anything that I can be doing for you to help you meet your needs? So I'm just going to pop the camera up. So basically you can see that Senpai is a huge thing. It's taken me 4 years to write and think about, and I really appreciate your time here today talking about the Senpai letter M. So I'm very grateful for your time and thank you very much, and I'll see you for the letter P. Alright, thank you very much. Bye.